some grumpiness to your internet, and welcome back to Redneck Radio, the live stream where today you get an extra side helping of spicy Southern style collard greens with bacon. Ooh,
Ooh,
that sounds good. I could eat a big steaming bowl.
yeah, I know how to make those.
Ooh, I love them. Love them. With me today, as you can tell, is Maddie, a person you all should be familiar with by this point. How you doing, Maddie?
I'm doing all right. How you doing?
Oh, not too bad. Like I told you before the stream, have a little bit of a headache, sinus, but I took some ibuprofen, so that should be clearing up here soon. Other than that, I'm all fine and dandy. At my age, any day that I can get up, put my feet on the floor, that's a good one.
Oh yeah.
But hey, Michael Weiner, Shia Grath, Cray, everybody out in the chat, you guys are posting faster than I can keep up. Dadgummit. Uh, I'm old. Have pity. Real quick, thank you, Cryptic, for the donation. You would like something big and steamy. No, I already had that something big and steamy. I took a huge deuce earlier today. Oh, I'm sorry. Was that oversharing? You got to expect that from me. I was raised in a household where bodily functions just weren't, anything to be ashamed of. Everybody had them.
Yeah, it's like growing up, if every summer break, I'd go down to Miami, and my grandmother, if I exhibited just a little bit of a sniffle, or I told her I wasn't feeling good, first question out of my grandmother's mouth was, "Did you check your shit today?"
Yeah, that was my mom's cure for everything. You need to go sit on the pot. That's what she'd say. Go sit on the pot. Mom, my leg hurts. Well, go sit on the pot.
Yeah. I have a headache. Did you check your shit today?
Yeah. That was mom's cure for everything. Go sit on the pot. And now dad wasn't like that. It embarrassed him, and he'd get embarrassed at the rest of us. It was from mom that we weren't ashamed of it. Poor dad never learned how to poop quietly. And he'd be down the hall in the bathroom, and you could hear every sound,
Oh gosh.
every plop, and me and my sisters and mom be just dying laughing, the tears rolling in the front room. And then we'd come out, we'd try to straighten out, but he could tell what was going on, and he'd be all mad at us.
My mom would get aggravated with my dad because in the basement, my mom would usually lie down to watch TV. My dad would sit in a chair that was like diagonal to the sliding glass door she was lying next to watching it. And you'd hear him in the seat, fart in the seat. And then he'd get up and walk across, and it would follow him. And mom said, "It was not in the marriage vows to share your stink with me. You want to go back down and sit in the chair?"
Yeah. I mean, it's just nothing to be ashamed of. Everybody does it. Now, of course, there's certain behavior you want to have out in public, but by God, this is my house, and if I want to fart out loud, I'll fart out loud. And I often do. But yeah. Oh, and by the way, while I'm thinking, I want to apologize to everybody. There was no stream Saturday. That was totally on me. That was my fault. I knew Thursday that the wake was Saturday, and I just wasn't going to be. It just wasn't going to work. But it just didn't click with me Thursday for some reason. So blame old age if you want to, or just blame me any old way you want. It was my fault. So I apologize. Hey, all you need. Hopefully we can get. I'm through this period where I have to periodically skip stuff and get back on my regular schedule. If you all haven't figured it out, time is very important to me. I like to have a day and a set time for everything, and it has to be there. And if it doesn't happen when I wanted to, I get bent out of shape. Call it OCD, I guess, if you want to, but it really messes with me. Real quick, thank you. Let me get it up there. Havoc Vladimirovich Stalinov. I forgot you told me I could just call you Havoc. Thank you for the donation. Hiya, Bloodwing. How you doing? Hey.
Yes, like I grew up. I used to joke that we were the a stereotypical Cuban family because my dad was in the military. We had to be everywhere 10 to 15 minutes early instead of 2 hours late.
Yeah.
So, and then when my mom told me, she said, "Oh well, we celebrate the sweet 15th birthday." I said, "Was that to make up for all the times that we're 2 hours late to everything?" She just looked at me and went, "Smart ass."
See, my dad, and I've mentioned before, my dad was the pastor of our church. And
Mhm.
yeah, to be just on time was late to him. We would show up at church and open the doors an hour early
Oof.
and just sit there. Now, as kids, now, and even though church hadn't started, you had to be on your best behavior already because you were in the church building.
Hmm.
Certain way you had to behave in there. So, uh, yeah, I was just raised that if you're just on time, you're late. So I've always been early wherever I go. When I worked, I would show up early,
Yeah.
with enough time to sit out in front of the parking lot, drink a cup of coffee, smoke a cigarette, get my head in working mode.
Hmm.
And there's just the kind of person that I am. And like with these live streams, I like for them to be on the day and at the time that they're supposed to be without variation, because if not, that just really triggers something in me that I don't. And speaking of which, I know there's been some question about Redneck Track. And yes, my intents at this point is there will be an episode this week, but
Yay.
there's been some question about when will it premiere now that football season has started. This is what I've decided. Since I'm in Eastern Standard Time, or Eastern Daylight Time now, I guess, home games are all at 1 o'clock. So that means football game's going to be around over somewhere around 4 o'clock, 4:30. And so 5:30 premiere is still doable. So I'll keep it in those times. On the times that we play West Coast teams and it's at 4:30, then I will just do it earlier, like say about 2:30 in the afternoon. So we're going to stay on Sundays. It's just we may have to switch the time for away games, and I'll try to keep everybody up to date ahead of time when that happens, so that it's not a surprise. So there you are. I know some were wondering what was going to happen, and that's what I've decided.
Oh, that's good. Because watching those is fun. You put those together really well.
I have a lot of fun doing them. It's a lot of work. Y'all may not realize just how much work each one of those episodes, each one of those 35, 40-minute episodes that you watch represent 2.5 to 3 days of work on my part.
Oh, I've edited gaming streams, so yeah, I feel your pain.
Yeah, it's the easy part is recording the game footage. That takes me about an hour,
Yeah.
because about an hour of game footage, once it's edited to edit out the slow parts and whatnot, turns out to about 40 minutes or so.
Mhm.
And that's the easy part. Then you get to scripting, and then recording, and then editing. And I'm not the world's fastest editor by no means, by any means. And then you got to render the doggone thing. And my poor old computer, what I have to do is I have to set it to render on Saturday night when I go to bed, so that it's done when I wake up in the morning. But hey, Heistman Northland, glad you made it. Glad you made it. I'm glad everybody made it. And while I'm at it, let me be a YouTuber for a minute and say, please like and share the stream. I almost said screen. Like and share the stream, because YouTube's not going to help us with that too much anymore. And if you'd like to go a little bit step further and donate a little bit my way, you can. There are a couple of ways you can do that. You can do it through Super Chat, or you can do it through Streamlabs. The link is in my description, as is the link to my Patreon. And the GoFundMe is still technically up. I haven't checked it in a while. I haven't shut it down, and here's why. I went to shut it down to stop it since we reached our goal. But it said that if I did that, I would lose all the money that was still in there.
What?
So I said, okay, well, let's get the money out of there then. All right. So it says it'll take a week for you to get your money. So I have to leave it open at least a week. Well, by the time that week is over, somebody else has donated. So yeah, when I get a week when there's no donations on it, it will be shut down. It will be shut down since we've reached our goal. But I thank everybody, and I'm sitting right here with a clear shot to my brand new white refrigerator that I'm so appreciative of. You guys don't know. I know it might seem silly to you, but I'm not joking when I tell you I have to reach out and touch it every time I pass it.
Dude, when we first moved into the apartment, I would just stand and stare at the kitchen like, I have a kitchen.
Yeah, I mean, if you went without a working refrigerator for 8 months like I did, which is doable, but it's a huge pain in the butt to do, you'd understand.
But living in his sister's rat trap for 2 years, the only thing that worked in that kitchen was the refrigerator. We were running on half of a junction box from half of a fuse box. Not the whole thing, half, because the fuse box was so outdated. To find the major breaker was a trek and a half, and then they were like $160 a piece.
Yeah.
So yeah, we lived like that for 2 years, running on camp stoves and microwaves.
Yeah, yeah. Cray asked me how many times I've opened the door to just look in. Oh, only every time I go in the kitchen. There's not a whole lot in it yet. We just haven't been to the store much. But there is some in it. The first thing we went and bought 10 pounds of hamburger because we can actually keep it now. Before, without a fridge, if you buy meat, you got to come home and fix it right away, or you ain't gonna have it. Thank you real quick, Cryptic, for the donation. Why does it got to be white, huh? Oh man, because I'm racist, don't you know? I'm a redneck, and all us racists, all us rednecks are racist. Just ask the lefties,
Ronan chuckled when we got the keys to the apartment and then we walked in and we looked, and I'm like, "Oh, I have a kitchen." He went, "Oh boy."
Kyler says Papa needs a new computer. As our bear says, open your hearts, open your wallets, open your bum holes, and give people. Yeah, actually, there may be a chance now, and I'll just put this out there because there may be a chance. You know what's went on with my youngest daughter. Her husband's died, and she's left with 4 young kids, and because of that, she has bills. And so there may be a chance that I open a GoFundMe for her. We're still unsure about that yet. We're trying to take care of it without going that route, because that's just how we are. But yeah, if you feel the need, I would rather you donate to that than to my computer fund. We'll get to that another time. Thank you, Willingham, for the donation. Hey, it'll be my only interaction because I'm on the first day of driving my truck for a farm that I can finally listen to your whole stream and can't wait. Here's some money. Well, thank you very much. I'm glad you tuned in while you're working. Hope it helps you get through your day a little easier. And thank you, Teresa the Kid, for the donation for Hamburger Helper, Papa. I love Hamburger Helper. I'm not proud. I'm not proud at all. I love Hamburger Helper.
Heck, I became a ramen gourmet for a while there. You got ramen noodles, cans, bottled sauce, and meat, and you got dinner. That's dinner.
Yeah. I'm not proud to admit when dinner's cheap. As long as it fills the belly, that's all you want, Yeah, cynical. I like the tuna helper too. I don't know that it's better. Hamburger helper's more filling because here's what I do. I will make up because I'm used to making for a whole crowd, even though all my grandkids have moved out now. I'm used to making for an army, right? So when they were all living here, you had to make 2 hamburger helpers together to have enough to feed everybody. 2 hamburger helpers calls for 2 pounds of hamburger. I always put in 2.5 pounds to put in a little more meat. I think it's a little more filling than the tuna helper, but the tuna helper is very, very, very tasty. It is. I like it too. So anyway, yeah, if you have caught on to the title, I guess I'm a dirty denier.
Oh, say it isn't so, Papa.
Oh my gosh, shame for shame for shame. I'm just a denier. Now, we all know that Twitter is just a cesspool. It's nothing that's a surprise. But it's been extra bad the last couple of days. All because what's her name? Greta, the young girl. Was it? She's from Sweden, is it? The climate change girl.
That's Greta Thunberg.
Yeah, and boy, the conversations have been heated.
Yeah.
Amongst people that we know, and it's to the point that if you even question whether or not the climate is changing because of what we human beings have done, then you are a dirty denier in the same basket as the flat earthers and the anti-vaxxers.
Yeah.
That was actually said.
Wow.
That they put climate deniers. Now, let me be clear, and we've talked about this on this stream before, so it shouldn't be any shock to anybody out there. Let me be clear. I am not denying anything. I do not deny that the climate is changing. In my lifetime, it's very clear that it is. I can look back to what the weather was like when I was a kid, and it's far different now. Yeah, the climate's changing. What I question, I'm not denying, what I question is the amount of effect that we as human beings are having on that.
Yeah.
Because there's very, very clear evidence that the world goes through a cycle. And this is something that happens every now and again, every few 10,000 years or so, That's where I question. But if you even question, then you're a denier. And I'm not denying anything.
It was like back on the 17th in one of my shows in the science section, I actually had two different articles that were somewhat related to each other. One about the climate changing, and the other one that was titled "More Realistic Experiments Needed on the Impact of Climate Change." So they really still haven't even come up with a viable way of testing how fast the climate is changing that they can agree on and use.
Yeah. And, they may very well be right. But I question it. I have questions. I'm not completely convinced that that they are interpreting the data correctly.
Yeah.
And one person even tried to own me by saying, well, science, is always evolving and everything. And I said, you're just making my point for me. Of course it's always evolving. And that's why I question, because yesterday's science facts are today's science misinterpretations. Sorry, I paused there, but my YouTube watch page just crashed. So let me get that reloaded. But I'm not denying a thing.
I remember, I think it was the early 2000s. There was research that the main climate change active people were trying to quell, that a group of scientists had gotten together, and over the course of, I think it was 20 years, 25 years, they were studying tree rings, and they had come up with the fact that, this isn't new. This is these heat and cold waves happen in cycles. Now, whether those cycles are not are being sped up because of what we're doing with the cars and the industry and factories and such, they can't agree on that.
Well, here's the other thing too. You get the ones that say, "Well, you're against having clean air." Where did I say that?
Yeah, they'll poke anything.
Where did I say that I'm against clean air? I'm all for cleaning up the environment. Have you forgot I was a teenager in the 70s and this whole climate question didn't even become an issue till the 70s, and it was huge. For those of you that did not live through it, it was huge in the 70s.
Yeah.
In fact, every high schooler in the 1970s, right next to their P symbol, had a sticker for the ecology symbol. If you've ever seen it, it's kind of a stylized green E. Look it up. They had that sticker right next to their P symbol sticker on their notebooks. It was when I was on the debate team, that was our topic, was about the use of natural resources.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Mr. Monopoly of Gulf City. My grandparents remember the 70s. Do I remember it? I lost my car in 78 under 8-foot drift. That's no lie. I did not get it out for a month. It took that long for the snow to get to where I could get my car out.
Yeah.
You know, we've been hyper aware of ecology since at least the 1970s. That's when it really began to be pushed. During that period. And I'm all for cleaning up the environment. Who isn't?
Exactly.
I mean, that's stupid. But just because I'm skeptical about whether or not what we've done to the environment is causing the climate to change doesn't mean I don't want the climate or the environment cleaned up. How do you make that connection?
Exactly. Well, they try to jump to stuff to try it. To me, there's no such things as discussions or civil debates anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's the person that you're arguing with is looking for a gotcha moment.
Yeah, it's all ownage. It's all ownage.
Yeah. And it's ridiculous because you can't have a constructive conversation with somebody just waiting for you to trip up so they can have that gotcha moment and claim that they won the entire conversation or debate or whatever you want to call it. And it's ridiculous. And, as far as this, the climate, how many predictions to the quote unquote apocalypse have we been through that haven't come through? How many times has Gore pushed back his, this is the 11th hour thing, past this is irreparable. How many times has he pushed that back?
Yeah. Real quick, Vance asked me how I am. I'm doing fine. I'm in great shape for the shape I'm in. It's like I tell people in real life and I always say this when they say, hey, how are you? I'm doing fine. I said, because most people don't want to hear the truth. They don't really want to hear how you doing. They expect you to say good. So that's just what
yeah. I had a grandmother that would give you an entire damage report in that.
Yeah. Well, real quick, donation from Diesel Dave there. And I'm waiting for it to show up so I can show it on the screen. There we go. Thank you, Diesel Dave, for the donation. And they put together restrictions on car emissions and cutting down CFC. Exactly. Since the 1970s, this nation has come a long, long way in lowering emissions and stopping pollution. Now, is there a ways to go yet? Sure there is.
Yeah.
But it's been a topic that there's been work on for the last 40 years.
Yeah.
They're
also trying to push for, we need renewable energy sources now. We need to go electric. We need to go solar. We need to do this. Look, it's already been proven that an all-electric car actually increases, if you will, I'm about to use one of those terms, the carbon footprint more than a combustible engine does.
Yeah.
That's already been proven. Solar power is only as good as, who puts it together. And none of this is practical in terms of diesel engines and airplanes.
Yeah, and both solar power and wind power kill birds.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen what happens to a bird when it flies over a solar panel?
No.
Yeah. Have you ever seen a death ray?
Oh my God.
Michael Weiners is a heck of a long way. Mostly, that we've come with anti-pollution. Most people have no idea. Yeah, I have an idea. Remember the Cuyahoga River in Ohio? And for those of you that don't, it caught fire. A river caught fire and burned for a long time because it was so polluted. Yeah, we've come a long, long way. And look, I've got nothing against science. I love science. It interests the heck out of me.
Mm-hmm.
I love science. But that doesn't mean that I don't feel like they can't be wrong. They're human beings. Of course they can be wrong. They can be misreading the data, and climate change is just over glorified weather forecasts, because that's what they're working on, is forecasts and, what's predicted and this, that, and the other. And, and we all know that weather forecast is about it's just as helpful. Stick your hand out the door and see if it's raining.
Yeah. What was it? RJ tag? Yeah. RJ tagged me and said Nissan put zero emissions badges on all Leafs when that's possibly false advertising. Everything emits something. You can't have any kind of action to propel a vehicle without some sort of emissions.
Yeah.
Happening. I mean, it may not be out of a tailpipe, but if it's an all electric vehicle, there's emissions going on somewhere.
Yeah, you got to generate the electricity somehow.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like I got into an argument with somebody I think last month, and they were like, well, you just sound like you don't want renewable energy. Said, no, don't even go there. Affordable, practical, and efficient renewable energy, yes. Renewable energy that costs an arm and a leg, a strand of DNA, and my next born, no.
So if anything, what I'm a denier of is that science is 100% correct 100% of the time.
Exactly.
Because we all know that's not true. Mm-hmm. But heaven forbid you even question, because that's all I'm doing here. I'm not denying anything. For all I know, they might be right. Yeah. Time might prove they're right. I don't know. But I'm questioning it. I'm skeptical.
Yeah.
There's parts of it that just doesn't seem right to me. Well, how dare you? They're more educated than you are. And yeah, I forget. I'm just a dumb old redneck that didn't go to college, but there ain't nothing wrong with my brain.
No. Well, it's like the gist of the article that I read back on the 17th. It was like the main part of finding a workable model that's accurate. The problem they're having is all of these tests to measure climate change are done on a global scale. You can't do something global and not know the effects of certain regions or ecosystems and how it's happening within those individual systems. You can't rate everything as a whole. You have got to, study its parts.
Yeah. Your boy Pat says, and if you're not skeptical, you're a fool. Exactly. I was raised. My father taught me in very implicit terms, you question everything.
Yeah.
And it got me in a lot of trouble growing up. There's at least 2 cases in school I can think of that my parents got called to school because I was arguing with the teacher in class. Oh. It did get me in some trouble. But that's the kind of person that I am. Yeah. Now, if you convince me, then I'm all on board. But if I'm not convinced, I'm not going to say I'm convinced and pretend I'm convinced, because I'm not.
Yeah. I got called. I discussed a couple of things with 2 different teachers in 2 different years, and both of them looked at me and went, "Oh, you're one of those students."
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Yeah, and to throw us in the same basket as flat earthers and anti-vaxxers, that's apples and oranges. We all know, or at least we should know, that not all sciences are created equally. Some are more easily provable than others. Anti-vaxxer, that's medical science. That's much easier to prove than climate. Yeah. Because it's not just dependent on projected data.
Yeah.
Right. There's all kinds of evidence that shows that not vaccinating your kids is a really bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Flat earthers. I mean, come on. There's photographic evidence of a globe
And no. It's my most favorite thing was a quote from a flat earther said, "There's millions of people. It's flat all the way around."
Yeah.
You do realize you just called the Earth round, right? No, I
But
didn't.
to throw us in that same basket is just deflection, and it's apples and oranges. It's not even comparable. Not all schools of science are created equally. Some are more easily proven than others.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Willingham, for the donation. Electric is the way, but we need better batteries. Also, coal plants are 80% efficient versus gasoline engines, which is around 10 to 15% efficient. And like I said, I'm all for. Whoops, chat jumped on me there. If you don't know how this works, I just click on my dashboard. I just click on one of your comments. And I tried to click that off, and it jumped and put the wrong comment up there. I'm all for cleaning up the environment. I like to breathe. You know,
Yeah.
we all do. And I do not know one conservative person or person that hangs out with us, evil old righties, you know, that doesn't want to see cleaner air.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know one of them.
And I remember when was it? I think it was. Oh, I think I was with my second husband. I thought this was the neatest thing in the world. This guy had taken his diesel car, created a kit, and it now runs off of filtered used vegetable oil.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, more power to you. And he said he hadn't had to pay for fuel in like 5 years. I'm like,
Yeah, I've actually seen one of those up close when I worked in mechanics. A fella pulled in with a vehicle that ran on vegetable oil.
mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know how that worked. Don't claim to know how it worked, but I guess it does. So, you know, there are alternatives and they're being looked at. And it's not like the environment is being ignored.
No.
This is something that has been worked on and worked on hard for the last 40 years. And we're continuing to make headway.
Yeah.
By all means, clean up the environment. What I'm against is the fear mongering is, oh my God, the world's going to end in 12 years.
Yeah.
Stop it. Because we don't have evidence of that. We don't.
Mm-mm.
Just stop. But we're all deniers. We're just deniers. And I put on Twitter, okay, I guess if being skeptical and questioning of the science makes me a denier, then I guess that I am. I don't think it does, but I guess I am. Now what? Okay, I'm a denier. What? You're trying to shame me with that label. I'm not ashamed. I stand by my stance. I'm not ashamed of it. It's just like the boomer thing during all the arguments about the climate change. The word boomer was getting thrown around a whole heck of a lot. And I piped in on one tweet, on one thread, and said, did anybody call for a boomer? Because I am a legit boomer. I was born in 1960, and I'm not ashamed of it. You know, I'm not that proud of it. How can you be proud of something that you didn't have anything to do with? You had no control over when I was born. Yeah. Thank you, Diesel Dave, for the donation. Fossil fuels are finite. We need to figure out an answer before the end is here. I agree. Yeah. And it is something that's been worked on and has been worked on for a long time now. Yeah. These people act like, oh, we're just now discovering that, and we need to do something. We need to do it fast. Yeah. Science has been working on alternatives and cleaning up the environment for at least 40 years, and we've made great strides in that direction.
Yep, and I still remember the commercials about the Chevy Volt and me looking up the Chevy Volt and how it worked, and then I started laughing. And the guy I was with at the time looked at me and he goes, "What are you laughing for? If you let the battery die in the Chevy Volt," he said, "yeah," I said, "it's more expensive to get the battery replaced than to buy a whole new car."
Oh yeah.
He went, "Holy, are you kidding me?" I said, "Look, it's here, in 3 different places. If you let the battery in the Chevy Volt die, it's cheaper to buy a new Chevy Volt than it is to replace the battery in the thing."
That is a fact. I used to work, the last dealership that I worked at in mechanics was a Toyota dealership. And it was at the time where they first introduced the Prius. Mm-hmm. And the battery to the Prius at that time was massive. It was huge and weighed several hundred pounds. If you've ever seen a forklift battery, multiply that by at least 2.
Damn.
It's huge, and carried a big charge. There was a case of at least one person getting electrocuted to death because they didn't know what they were doing, messing with the battery. That battery was expensive, and it absolutely is true. If the battery went bad, it was cheaper to buy a new Prius than to buy the new battery and have it put in.
It's ridiculous.
It is nuts. But yeah, I guess if I'm a denier, I'm a denier. Now what?
Yeah.
Okay, you're not shaming me, and I'm not changing my position. I'm still going to question. I love science. I like science. And this is what gets me. The same people that are calling us deniers because we're skeptical about climate change science are the same ones that would shame us because if we happen to be Christian because we're not questioning.
Right.
So which is it? Or a similar example.
It never ends.
It doesn't. It doesn't. Now, as far as Greta goes, here's my opinion. I won't spend a whole lot of time on her. I do not like it when adults use children. And at 16, she's a child. She's a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but she is. She's just a little kid at 16. I do not like seeing adults, for whatever reason, and whether it be left wing or right wing, I don't like seeing them used for their own political gain.
No, I mean, to me, it would have been perfectly fine if it would have been released in the news that she, still being in school, wrote an in-depth essay about climate change and what her concerns with the climate change were, because that's what a kid in school should do. A kid should not, for all intents and purposes, because this is what she's doing, drop out of school, be paraded all around the world in order to push a narrative.
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't matter to me which side of the political aisle they're on. I don't like it. I don't like it when it happened with that girl that everybody's been talking about that I can't remember what had her channel shut down. I don't remember her name, or the Covington kids, or none of that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't like it. It doesn't need to belong. And I'm sorry, but at 16, you are not a smart person. I don't care how intelligent you really might be. You're really not a smart person. You have not had near enough life experience to figure out how life works.
Yeah.
You're just a kid.
Yeah.
I put on Twitter when I was 16, I thought I was the smartest dude in the world and thought my parents were stupid as heck.
Yeah.
And then I got 30 and I realized just how smart they really were and wondered how the heck I even remembered to breathe at 16.
Oh, yeah. MC says she's a young adult who should be called on the carpet for a commentary. Now, I will say this, MC. If during the course of her being paraded all over the place, she says that she is doing this of her own volition and it is her idea, and those are her words out of her mouth, not off a script, not off a piece of paper, not off something she read, then I will call her to task on it.
Yeah. The chat saying many AOC. Yeah, her too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I found it funny, but it was just adults using a child for their political gain. And I don't like that. I don't like it. I didn't agree with it then. But, all us right-wing people, we all think alike and we're all alike. And,
Yeah. I mean, the other thing that makes it even, and not that it's bad. I mean, it's already bad because it's a kid. But what makes it worse is the fact that from what I've read, she's diagnosed with being on the autism spectrum, which means she's autistic, and she's OCD, which means if she's on that particular degree of being autistic, it's been known that on the certain part of the autism spectrum that certain kids get fixated on things. And if she's been fixated on this and fed all the wrong information, she's been indoctrinated because she's easy to sway.
Now there's people in the chat saying that she should be called out, and absolutely should be called out. Let's create a scenario here. Let's say that we're off the internet and we're actually meeting face to face in someone's front room. Scary proposition, I know. But let's do things the old-fashioned way and be face to face. And some 16-year-old come up with all this rhetoric that you don't agree with. Are you going to let it pass, or are you going to try to show them the error of their thinking. Well, of course you're going to convince them that they're wrong. Of course they are. I'm not saying that she shouldn't be called out. I think she's being called out a little harsh by some people. Because let's do bear in mind that she is a kid.
Yeah.
You know, but absolutely call her out and refute her points. Absolutely. But when it all comes down to brass tacks, she's a kid being used by adults.
Yeah. And I mean, it's you're refuting their ideas. She's their mouthpiece, as sickeningly as it sounds. She's their mouthpiece. She's their shield, because any criticism her way, and it's just like Pat says, how dare you? She's just a kid. Well, if you're going to parade her out there in the public eye, she's going to be ridiculed just as much as David Hogg is, just as much as that girl that travels with David Hogg is, and just as much as any high school child that gets propped up. Will you hush? that gets propped up and used as a political mouthpiece.
See you, Alex. I did see you out in the chat. I was just on a roll, buddy. I'm sorry. Yeah, you know, and absolutely call them out. Absolutely refute their points. Now, if you're going at it in a threatening manner, and all you got is ownage and calling names, then you're no better than the people that went after the Covington kids.
Yeah.
There's a way that this should be done. But absolutely call them out.
Yeah. I mean, to me, she should be, to me, in the perfect world, she should be sat down and she should be shown the other half of the information that she either hasn't looked at or hasn't been given. And that's the information that for the past 30 years, we have been trying to fix the problems that we've caused from our industrialism and everything. All the regulations that have been put in place to clean the air coming out of smokestacks, to what's going on in coal mines, and so on and so forth. It's not like we've been ignoring the problem. Yeah. What do you think we have an EPA for?
Exactly. And you know, like I said, it's the environment has been up front in the public consciousness strong ever since the 1970s. That's when the big push came.
Yeah.
And it was after that a lot of regulations were made, a lot of changes were made in industry and whatnot.
Yeah.
You know, and we've made great strides. Now there's a ways to go yet.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You won't hear me deny that. But this fear mongering of the world's going to end in a few years. No, I'm sorry. I just don't buy it.
I mean, it's just the constant, and it's the other thing that frustrates me is they constantly look at us, the UK, quote unquote, first world countries, and they tend to overlook China and India, who are right now, as the world stands, the two biggest culprits for spewing the most pollution out in the air right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mentioned that just earlier. You must have come in late, Duck Dog. I mentioned the Cuyahoga River. Yeah. It was at one time, it was way far worse than it is now, by and large, overall. I mean, you've got an actual river, you know, of water that caught fire and burned for a long time. That's how polluted it was. But yeah, it just, of course, I'm not surprised. It just kind of, you know, aggravated me that you can't make a statement. And then that's all most of the people that I saw, like myself, and Monkey was one of them, and Alex and others. We just question. We're not denying anything. We're just questioning the validity of how they're interpreting the data. You know, that's not a denial.
No.
And after all, isn't that what science is? Isn't science, when you break it down to its purest form, isn't science looking at this thing and saying, and questioning how it works and questioning why it even exists? Isn't that science?
Yeah.
See you, Kyler. Have a good day of work, dude. But yeah, anyway, I didn't want to spend the entire stream on that subject, but I did want to make my point of view known. uh, like, come on, don't you have anything better? Just because we're not jumping on board and kissing your butt and saying that you're absolutely right, and we're questioning this thing that you hold dear, does not make us science deniers. Science questioners, maybe, but we ought to, because they can be wrong, because they're human beings and they're fallible.
Yeah, I mean, it's just science is always it's always evolving and it's always changing because there's always new discoveries. There's always new information coming out. There's always new ways of doing things, of finding things, of making things work that were better than what the scientists came up with before. It's science isn't precise. It's like it's guesswork. It's like, okay, does this work? Okay, let's test it. Okay, that doesn't work. Next.
Yeah, and weather, and by extension, climate change, is a very inaccurate, because it's predicated so much on predictions and computer models and yada yada. It's just not as easily proven as other branches of science, and they're not all equal, folks. I said it before and I'll say it again. They're not all equal. Some are easier to prove than others. Mama Minnie says, I love this combo. I'm on campus and I'm getting a lot of weird looks. Just tell them it's your dad, sweetheart. What are you going to do? You can't choose your parents. Owen Harmon says, I've read the Paris Climate Accord. I still don't understand how sending hundreds of billions of dollars to Africa is going to solve anything. Yeah, I know. Seagrass sent me DM. Dude, I can't do two things at once. What are you trying to do to me here? You trying to distract me? Hold on just a second here, and I'll try not to lose the stream. And yeah, okay. So it's somebody. Ringhouse Weaver to announce formal impeachment inquiry of Trump after resisting for months. Well,
for what?
Yeah, I seen that. I did. Okay, people, I get it. You don't like Trump. I didn't vote for the man myself. I didn't.
No.
Yeah, I think sometimes he's a clown. I laugh at him just as much as anybody else sometimes. I don't think he's the worst president we ever had, and I don't think he's taken us to hell in a handbasket.
Nope.
But yeah, I laugh at him, and I didn't vote for him. And I get it. You don't like him, but you've wasted his entire first term trying to impeach the man with stuff that you can't impeach him over. You've wasted the entire first term, which would have been better spent in coming up with a candidate that can beat him for his second term. And I don't think you've done that yet.
No, it's been almost a 3-year temper tantrum.
Yeah.
All it is a temper tantrum. He can't even sneeze without people criticizing it.
I know it.
Now, has he made mistakes? Yes, he's made mistakes. Has he done some good things? Yes. But there hasn't been a president alive that hasn't screwed up and done good things both at the same time in their administration. There hasn't been a single squeaky clean president in the White House.
No. I'll give you an example. In my opinion, and this is just my opinion, you guys know how I am about history, Abraham Lincoln is arguably the best president we've ever had. Arguably the best. You can argue it, but I'll tell you you're wrong. But he was not squeaky clean. Did you know he done away with due process? Yes, he did.
Yep.
Look into it. There's none of them that are squeaky clean and we're absolutely 100% perfect.
Nope.
Deck Train says Reagan. I absolutely loved Reagan, and I was adult through the Reagan terms. I voted for Reagan, and I'm not ashamed of it. Say what you want about Reaganomics, but I had more money in my pocket while that man was president than ever before or since.
Ronan did too. The Iran-Contra issue was with
but
Ray.
yeah, he had his issues.
Yeah.
There's not one of them that's been squeaky clean. And you folks that hate Trump have wasted 3 years trying to come up with some kind of impeachment hearing that ain't going to happen.
It was like they defended. Obama had more scandals than anybody, and everybody was sitting there trying to defend him. And then you had, I still remember the arguments from way back when Clinton was president, going, well, you can't impeach him because he had an affair. That's not what we're impeaching him for.
We're impeaching for being a liar.
Exactly. He obstructed justice. He lied under oath. Those are impeachable offenses.
Yeah. Wait, real quick, Mama Minnie, and you're right. She gives hugs and consider yourself lucky my family doesn't hug, and we don't. But I gave you, even though it was the briefest of hugs, a hug before you left to go back to Michigan the other day. So, yeah.
So there,
yeah. And we both said that. Nope, that's enough of that. That's all you get. We're not huggers. We're really not. Doesn't mean we don't love each other. We're just not physical about it.
It's like they can call, they're calling Trump every name in the book, but God forbid you say President Obama. Oh, how can you have a civil conversation if you make fun of Obama? You're making fun of Trump?
Don't get me started on Obama.
Right?
I will never forgive him for what he's done to my insurance.
No, a lot of people won't. My mom went on their website when that thing first got instituted and was fixed, and she told me that she went through all the questions, read all the instructions, followed everything. Now, both my parents are retired, so fixed income. They told her she didn't qualify for any subsidies, and it'd be $760 a month for Obamacare for my mom.
Mama Minnie, now, yeah, it was a lame hug, but that's about as good as it's going to get for me. That's progress. There was a time I wouldn't even have give you that. Quit complaining, dadgummit. I know some of y'all might think our family doesn't like each other. That's not true. We're just not real physical people. We just don't, Now, my grandkids, I'll take all them hugs I can get. Mm-hmm. My grandkids are different. I don't know why, but they are different, and they can climb all over me, and I don't care. Yeah. But at the wake, I was speaking of my grandkids. I was so tickled. At my grand, you've heard me mention my grandson. I call Bulldozer.
Yeah,
and he's all about his papaw, and there come a time when they grilled hamburgers and hot dogs and so forth. And he come over and found where I was sitting in the grass and sat next. So I'm going to sit here with my papa. I'm going to sit right here. And he did. He sat here and he brought his uncle, Jay Kid, a deviled egg because he knows he likes them. Mm-hmm. I said, boy, I tell you what. But anyway, that's just our family. We're just not real physical people. We don't hug, and stuff like that. We just don't. Don't mean we don't love each other.
Yeah, I mean, heck, if you heard us go back and forth in our family, you'd think we hate each other the way we pick on each other all the
time. Just for examples of that, all you got to see is Mama Minnie and J Kid go at it in the chat when they're both in there at the same time.
Yeah.
But yeah, for instance, my grandfather, who's been gone many years now, I can't remember a single time where he hugged me, but I had absolutely zero doubt that he loved me.
Yeah,
zero doubt. He showed it in other ways, like the time that I don't know if I've ever told this story on the stream, but it'll get us off the heavy subjects and onto something a little funnier. When I was, probably 5 or 6, somewhere around in that area, Mammy and Papa, that's what I called them. Mammy and Papa had a rooster. Now, if y'all don't know anything about chickens, they can be little buttholes, and especially roosters. And I was over there at their house staying the night, and that rooster took a notion to chase me. And it chased me all over the yard and plumb into the house until I ducked under the kitchen table to get away from it, and screaming the whole time. Real quick, thank you for the donation, Owen Harmon. Hungarians are always kissing and hugging, but I come from a really cold, stoic family. You can imagine my struggle. Yeah, I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry, but that rooster chased me plumb under the table, and of course, Mammy, because that's the way she was. She was, oh, poor little baby, you okay, and all that, and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
She was the opposite of Papa. She was the big spoiler.
Yeah. Oh, my grandmother had a brother that lived in Venezuela that would come to visit every once, I think every other summer for about a month. His name was Vincent, but I only knew him as Tio Lolo until after he died, and I found a picture of him. But I noticed, and I would notice this. He'd go, and by the time I got down there for summer break, he had this plant in the backyard growing along the fence, and he would cultivate it, and he'd weed it, and he'd water it, he'd fertilize the thing, and he'd just baby this thing until it got, so big. And then he'd leave to go to Venezuela because his visit was over, and Grandma went straight in the backyard to the thing, dug it up, threw it in the garbage. Now, this went on for several years. And I'm like, Dio, can I ask you a question? He goes, what? Said, why do you plant the same plant in the same place every time you go to visit, knowing that she doesn't like that plant? He goes, you're an only kid, so I'm going to explain this to you. When you have brothers and sisters, you're always trying to one-up them. I said, okay. He goes, and the fact that I can be on the plane to Venezuela knowing that she's got to take a shovel and dig up something that I've been growing for the past 2 months makes me smile on the way back home.
But anyway, this rooster chased me plumb under the table, and Mammy's all over me, like, poor baby, did it hurt you and everything, which it didn't, yeah. and all that. But Papa sat there, never said a word, did not say one word, didn't even ask me if I was okay, did not say a word. Now, the next day was Sunday. And, back in the old days of the 60s, Sunday dinner was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what we had for Sunday dinner?
Rooster.
We had chicken. And that rooster was nowhere to be seen again. So don't tell me my papa didn't love me. He not only got revenge for me, but it tasted pretty sweet. You betcha. But yeah, my family just doesn't. It comes from my dad. Now, my mom was a hugger. She would hug you if you wanted to, And one of the things that my mom would do when I was younger and living at home, she'd sit on one end of the couch and I'd lay on the other end, put my feet in her lap. That's just what it was. But Dad was never a hugger. I'm not a big hugger. And it's just the way it is. But it don't mean we don't love one another. We just show it in different ways. Yeah. We might poke fun and call each other names and fight and argue. But I guarantee you, if you're from the outside of the family and you come at one of them, you better duck because the rest of the family is coming to the rescue.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just the way that it is. I miss my papa a great deal. Now I did fuss at him one time. Back years ago when you've heard me talk about the property my family used to own out in the country, and our property was right up against Mammy and Papa's property.
Mm-hmm.
You could see their cabin up the hill from our place. There was a little patch of woods in between it, but you could see it. And when my son, J Kid, was probably 4 years old or so, we lived in the city, so you can't let kids run free out there. You got to watch them because, they're bad people, and we didn't have a fenced in yard and all that. Vanessa says, would your gramps be my great grandpa twice? I have no idea. Might be. But when we'd get down to the cabin, we'd kind of let the kids run free because we could, you know, it was a little safer there out in the country. And they had borders that they had to stay to, you know, and so forth. But we kind of let them run free because it was their one chance, you know, to run free. And so I would let J Kid walk up the hill to Mammy's house unattended. Now, Papo thought that was the biggest trick. He'd be sitting out on his porch, smoking his Winchester little cigars and drinking his mason jar of tab. And he'd be watching him come up a hill, and he'd say, "Oh, May," that was my grandmother's name. "Oh, May, I hope they let him get here. I hope he makes it. I hope he makes it all the way up here." What they didn't know, I'm back at our cabin watching through the window, watching him the whole way. But he'd get up there, and we'd let him spend time at their cabin because they thought that was a big trick, you know, to spend time with their great grandson. And I'd go up there on the porch, and one day, J Kid was sitting in his lap and just picking his pocket because my papa always had a pocket protector and always had half a dozen pins and a couple screwdrivers and whatnot in his pocket. They were just always there.
Yeah.
And he's picking them pins out of his pocket and everything, and Papa's just letting him do it.
Yeah.
And I said, "Papa, I'm mad at you." He goes, "Why is that? What did I do? What are you mad at me for?" "Because if I'd have picked your pocket like that, you'd have smacked my hands raw for picking your pocket like that. You're letting him get away with it." And he just grinned at me. Of course, now that I'm a grandparent, I understand.
Yeah. It was like I had never seen my grandfather angry. He was the most laid back person I had ever met in my life. And he could make a joke out of any situation that he was in. But there was 2 times. And the second time is when I had seen him at his maddest. I was supposed to be staying with my other grandmother, my mom's mom. But instead, my mom's mom was out of state and my aunt was living there. My aunt and I had never gotten along. And she was there with her kids. And I was playing in the backyard with her daughter. Her daughter snatched something from my hand. And I went to grab it back. And she, not knowing the whole story, opened the door when we were fighting over it. And she ran to me and smacked me on the top of my head. Now, I had braces in my mouth at the time. So that really freaking hurt. So I ran in there and I called my grandpa and I told my grandpa what happened. He said, "I'll be there in 20 minutes. Normally took 45 minutes to get from where he was to where I was. But in 20 minutes, he goes, "Pack your bag. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Next thing I know, there's a knock on the door. I hear my Aunt Millie. "What are you doing? Where's my granddaughter? And if you touch her again, I will slap the shit out of you."
Yeah. I miss old Papa. He died just shortly before Mama Minnie there in the chat was born, so she never got to know him. J Kid's the only one of my kids, and he was probably too young to really remember. But I do miss. I know this, that when it's my time to go, I hope I go like Papa did. The day he died, he was out wandering around their property down there out in the country. They eventually moved out to that cabin, and he was wandering around. He was showing my uncle some new trees that he'd planted on the property, and had a massive heart attack and died before his body even hit the ground. He was dead, and that's the way you go. He was doing what he loved. You know, he was out there showing my uncle around, showing him these trees. You know, if when it's time to go, I hope I go like that. Just quick and doing what I like, you know. But Mom, he says, "Now your old Papa, instead of candy is Cheez-Its." Yes, sir. That's right. I always keep a box of, well, here, listen. There's my Cheez-Its. You know, I keep a box of Cheez-Its just for the grandkids because they think it's a neat trick. But yeah, I don't give them candy. That's what my dad did. And then him and Mom got the diabetes. So did my papa run shine? No, actually, my papa was a metallurgist.
Ooh.
He was a metallurgist for a ball bearing plant. And what's so remarkably amazing about that is he never finished high school. He was self-taught, and he knew more about metallurgy than the kids that came in after him that were with college. It had college, to be a metallurgist. So yeah, he was constantly complaining about them dumb college kids that come in there, think they know everything. And he was self-taught, and he learned the old-fashioned way by doing, So yeah, I'm very, very proud of my papa. He never finished high school, which was not unusual for, he's from Kentucky. Wasn't unusual for that day and age and where he was from. You got some schooling, but there was a point in time where you had to go help your parents earn a living. That's just the way it was. And he never finished, but yeah, wasn't anything dumb about my papa. He was a smart man. He was a metallurgist, and you think I talk slow? You should have had a conversation with him, because having a conversation with Papa was like, well, gonna have to have a talk with that boy one of these days. That was a conversation with Papa. You didn't get in any hurry.
Yeah, my papa, my grandpa, he taught me how to play dominoes. And when he thought I had it down pat, meaning I at least beat him 3 games in a row, it was time for him to take me down to the beach to his friends to play dominoes with his friends. So he introduced me to his friends and said, she's going to play this game in my stead. I'm just going to watch. So at the end of the game, when I had beat his friends, one of his friends looked at him and went, Rafi, why don't you sit down? At least with you, we have a chance of winning.
Yeah, I don't think Papa ever taught me any games. My dad did. Taught me to play chess and checkers and all that stuff. He instantly regretted it because at 6 years old, I beat him at chess. Which he then sequestered himself and practiced chess until he was sure he could come back and beat me, and then never played me in chess again after he beat me once. That was my dad. Dad was very competitive.
Yeah.
Very competitive. But yeah. Yeah, I had the good old redneck down home Papa. But he was a metallurgist. He played guitar and sang, in the church and all that stuff. I don't think I ever seen him without work clothes on. You know what I'm talking about? What do they call it? Dickies. With a work shirt and work pants on. Even at church, I don't think I ever seen him without his work clothes on, and that's the kind of papa I had. Now, to be fair, he was not my blood papa. He was my dad's stepdad, but he was the man that done the job instead of the worthless piece of crap that left my dad's family when he was 7.
Right.
And ain't nobody in the world gonna tell me that man was not my papa, because he was. He done the job. And he couldn't have loved me any more if I was blood related than he did.
Yeah. Good night, Owen.
Yep. See you. Have a good night, buddy. Been interrupted. Oh, I know that. I know that feeling. I know that feeling. The other day, Alex and I had a date to play 7 Days to Die at a certain time, and I had to beg off because I was so tired with everything that was going on at the time. I was just so tired. I said, dude, I don't think I can. I'm too tired. I don't think you want to play with me when I'm this tired. Yeah, Mom Minnie, is right. I was a really dumb kid and young adult. Yeah, I done some pretty stupid stuff. I thought I was smart though.
We all think we're smart when we're young. I think the phrase is young, dumb, and full of cum.
Yeah, I was, like I said before, at 16, I thought I was the smartest fellow on earth. Thought I knew it all. And along with that, I thought my parents were the dumbest people on earth. And then a few years later, by the time I reached 30, I realized just how smart they were and I wondered how I even remembered to breathe at 16.
Yep.
But on that note, I'm sorry to do this to you, Maddie, but you're going to have to carry the stream for a few minutes because it's that time. Everybody knows that in this stream, it's as inevitable as the sun coming up in the morning. Pavel's going to have to go pee.
Yep. So any of you got guessed at an hour and 10 minutes, you got it.
Yep. So toss amongst yourselves. I will be right back.
What is going on out here? It said, Cynical Lindsay. My grandparents on my mom's side divorced and remarried, so I had two sets of grandparents on her side of the family. My grandmother, my mom's mom, and the reason I say that for a reason is they came to the States with my grandpa, with my dad's mom, and then he went back to go get his family. And as soon as he got off the plane, he was arrested, so he never came back to the U.S. So my grandmother, my mom's mom, had to raise her 4 kids and one niece and one nephew until her brother and sister-in-law could come to the States and come and get them. So one house, 2 bedrooms, 1 Florida room, 1 bathroom, 6 kids. That was pretty much mom's life for a while until her cousin's parents could come and get their own house and get established. And mom said to say it was cramped was the boys slept in the Florida room and she slept with her sister and her cousin. Yeah, she's with her cousin Anita in the room that was next to my grandmother's room. Now, my mom's mom never remarried in hopes that he would come home someday. But mom and I were sitting around and we would joke that she had become so independent that if they did decide to let him come back to the States and knock on the door and he would try to assert himself, all hell would break loose because she was far too used to living on her own. And she was the one that taught me that faith is stronger than walking into any church and having a religion, because I remember asking her as a little kid, it must be awfully lonely being in this house by yourself. And she said, I'm not alone, I'm with God. She always had her faith and she always believed that as long as she was with God, she was never alone. Yeah, my mom and her older brother had to get jobs in order to support the household. But yeah, for the longest time, my mom's mom had to raise 6 kids, 2 that weren't hers, when they came here from Cuba to the States.
And I'm back.
Okay. Hi, back. Where's Papa? Oh, sorry.
That sounds exactly like something I would say. I'm always saying it. In fact, I said it this morning to my granddaughter, who's she got in the car. I take them to school in the morning, and she got in the car and says, "I'm tired." How you doing, tired? I'm Papa.
Yeah, my grandmother my mom's mom was the strongest woman I have ever met in my life. I mean, could you imagine escaping from a country that was horribly oppressive with 6 kids, 2 of them not even your own, and raising them until your brother and her sister-in-law came to get them and take them to, the house that they were going to live in?
Yeah.
That was...
It's tough. Banza says, "Hey, Papa, want a hound dog?" I want a dog bad. I really, at the wake, there was this puppy there at the wake. Not a young puppy, but not a full-grown adult dog either, kind of in between. And it was so cute. I want a dog so bad, but I can't have one here. Oh. So yes, I do want a hound dog, but I can't have one. But yeah, I love them doggies.
Mine is in that toddler mode, so I decided to come up with another Maddieism. When you put toddler together with puppy, you get a podler.
Yeah, the pirate dog.
Yes. The pirate. She's now gone after my tennis shoes for some reason. I had to get up and get them off the floor.
Oh, when I was a kid, that reminds me. We've had, growing up, I've had a lot of different dogs. I'm 60 years old, and dogs live 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had a lot of dogs over the years. When I was a kid, we had a toy poodle. Um, and if you've never seen a toy, they're just a really small breed of poodle.
Yeah, itty bitty things.
They're very smart dogs, extremely smart. This dog knew how to play hide and seek. I mean, she literally knew how to play hide and seek, knew when it was her time to hide, and knew when it was her time to seek. When you tell her, okay, it's your turn, and she'd put her little paws, put her head down, put her little paws over her eyes, like she's counting, while we all went and hide. And then she'd find one of us, then run to base, and then it was her turn to go hide. Very intelligent dog, extremely intelligent, but vindictive. Oh my goodness gracious. It did not like to be left home alone. Didn't like it at all. And if you left her at home alone, when you got home, you had to check your shoes. And here's why. Because she would poop in your shoes. And if that didn't work, she'd go poop in the middle of the bed.
Oh, wow.
Now tell me that dog isn't doing that on purpose. That's not a case of just not being able to hold it.
No, they did it on purpose. She was mad you guys left.
Yeah. Vindictive. So then we started locking her in the bathroom when we leave the house, so she would poop all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Then that didn't work either because she would take the toilet paper completely off the roll. The whole that dog was something else. Cricket is what we called her, Cricket. And Mom ended up giving her away to a lady that lived out in the country, and she was better suited to be out there. Yeah, that was at home more than we were. We were a young family at the time, and young families are often on the go, and we're not always home. And it got a little old having to check your shoes for poop every time you left.
Right? I was like, those of you that know me from the Roach Trap know that we had a pitty by the name of Zeus. I called him Boo Boo. Mm-hmm. And if he didn't think that on Ronan's days off, if he didn't think that Ronan had gotten up when he should get up, he'd walk around and start bumping the bed. And if the bumping of the bed didn't work, he'd go straight over to Ronan's side of the bed and put his muzzle right in Ronan's face until Ronan got up out of bed. Now, he did this for the simple purpose of being able to jump in the bed and cuddle right next to me. Because every time Ronan got up to go fix the coffee, in the bed would come Boo Boo and right next to me. And then Ronan would turn around and go, hey, I'm in the room. And Boo Boo would just lift his head like, and? Like, you little shithead. Yeah, this one here is a cuddle bug. Ruby is a cuddle bug.
Well, my daughter's dog is too. She's been on this stream before. You all know her. We used to watch her for a while. She's a mixed pit breed, and just the sweetest thing in the world. And she just wants attention, But she loves me. And I was over there just the other day to visit with Mama Minnie and the rest of them before she went back to Michigan. And Precious, that's the dog's name, waited patiently until the grandkids took their turn sitting in Papa's lap. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as she seen they were done, she jumped up there and then looked at all of them like, he's mine now. You're not getting it back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we the pirate dog.
Yep, there's the pirate dog.
You seriously got to get her an eye patch. I mean,
we're working on it. I think somebody on Twitter wants me to buy her a whole pirate outfit for Halloween.
She's like, get that camera off me. You're bugging me.
Right?
Yeah, I do. You're right. Opinionated Scotsman, dogs are better than people. I love me some doggos. Yeah. I mean, come on. They love you unconditionally. And all they ask back is just a little attention. That's it.
And they're great judges of character.
Yeah. Yeah. We really don't deserve them, but we have them and I love them. Yeah. And I really would love to have one, especially now that all my grandkids have moved out. It would, it gets a little too quiet and empty in the house at night when my wife's at work. So it would be good company, but I can't have any. So is what it is.
Yep. I got to go back to walking when my hip's not hurting so much again, so I can actually get rid of the round, which is not a shape that I like. But when I started walking her, a lot of people would, point. She's a little Boston Terrier. People would look at her and go, "She a boxer?" Nope. No. She's a Boston Terrier. We can't have a boxer in this apartment. Weight limit's 25 pounds. What boxer you know is 25 pounds?
Yeah, exactly. But yep, I do love my dogs, and I've had some good ones over the years, and I've had some little buttholes over the years, for sure and certain. We had a basset hound one time that we named Toby, and that dumb dog. We had cats at the same time; they were all outside cats, and every time the cats would have litters, that dumb dog would kill all the kittens and spread them all over the yard.
Oh.
But we've had some good ones and we've had some bad ones, and dogs are like people. They have their own personality. There's good people and bad people. There's loving people and there's grumpy people.
Mm-hmm.
And there's loving dogs and there's grumpy dogs.
Yeah. And this one's picked up every time I do something new. If I'm consistent with it, she picks it up. Like I used to, every once in a while or every day when we go out for her, like mid-afternoon, like noon, 12:30 p, we'll come back in. I'll give her a couple ice cubes to crunch on. Well, if I forget to give her ice cubes and put it in her water bowl, she'll walk right over to where her bowl is, sit down, look at me and go, "Are you forgetting something?"
Hey. See something missing here? Hey.
Yep. Yeah. Hello.
What's not in this picture that should be? Hey.
Yeah.
And yes, there are mean old dogs, and some dogs do get mean as they get older. But there's a lot of people that get mean as they get older.
Oh yeah.
Not that I would know anything about that, but and there are some dogs that are just mean. A lot of that has to do with how they're raised, but not always. Dogs do have their own personality, just like people. Viper, tell him to look at his Twitter DMs. I can't. I'm 20 minutes away from him. Viper. I'm sure he'll get it though. I'm sure he'll see it. He does check his Twitter from time to time. But I'm a good 20 minutes away from Jay Kidd. Right now he's on the other side of town. So
my grandmother, I remember, I think I was 10, 11 when I looked at my mom's mom and I said, I'm noticing that the older you get, the grumpier you become. Because that's because I've seen a lot of crap and I don't give it anymore.
That's exactly right. I mean, you get to, and I can testify because I'm past that point. You get to a certain age where you know what, I've done it all, I've seen it all, and I'm just done taking any crap. I don't care.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? Kill me and eat me?
Yeah. Master Dax, the funniest thing the Pity did that Boo Boo did was we used to sit in one table with both of our laptops, and he used to sit in between us. Well, one particular night we felt like we were hungry, and in the roach trap we kept everything in our room because we would, periodically spray for roaches so we wouldn't find any surprises in our food supply.
All right.
I made a peanut butter sandwich for Ronan, and I just kind of handed it over to the left without looking. So he grabbed it, and then all of a sudden we felt extra pressure. Both of us looked in the middle, and Boo Boo was sitting on the bed, and he had put his muzzle lightly on the sandwich and froze when both of us looked at him. And he looked from Ronan to me like, "Oh, this isn't for me?" And then he kind of slowly took his muzzle off the sandwich, sat down, and kind of looked at us with those sorrowful eyes like, "Oh, I thought the sandwich was for me."
Viper, I'm sure that he will get it. I don't know what his email is, or I'd give it to you. I don't know what it is offhand, but I can tell you that he will absolutely appreciate it. And I appreciate you doing that for him. So I'm sure he'll get back to you as soon as he sees it. But yeah, dogs are great. Dogs are great. And shoot, I could sit here and tell dog story after dog story because I've had so many over the years. I mean, my whole life started with a dog. You know, my uh, grandmother, my maternal grandmother, gave me a dog, a puppy, when I was born. You know, and we had that dog for quite a while until it lost its sight and accidentally bought the land the Mrs. Landlord, who was the nicest woman in the world. It was an accident. He couldn't see,
Yeah.
and she was feeding him, and he accidentally bit her. But the bad thing is, she's diabetic, and we couldn't have that. So, mom and dad had him taken away, and boy, I cried. For days. I cried. Loved that dog, Dusty. That dog was. Thank you, Mama Minnie. She says she'll Viper. She'll message him on Facebook. And honestly, he'd be quicker to answer her than he would me. So, yeah, she'll take care of it for you there. But Dusty was, boy, talk about a smart dog. He knew exactly how long our yard was and where the boundaries were. And if he was tied up, he would, if we got too close to the edge of the yard, and we had a really big front yard at that time, really small backyard, wasn't much bigger than an alley. It was just more or less a breezeway, what I would call breezeway. But the front yard was massive. The house sat way back on the property, and he knew when we were getting too close, and he'd start raising a fuss. If he was loose, he'd go out, and he'd done it to me many times. It would go out and grab you by the seat of the britches and pull you back in the yard, which was kind of a pain in the butt when you were when you had permission to go visit the neighbor kids across the street.
Yeah.
But Dusty didn't know that. And there's been many occasions that he's run out and grabbed me, and I'd holler back, "Mom, tell Dusty I can leave." And Mom would come out and tell him, "It's okay, Dusty, he can go," and then he'd be fine. Yep. But until that, he says, "You're not leaving his yard." Nope.
Yep. And I had when I was married to before I met my second husband, when Paul was 2 years old, I was working third shift at a convenience store, and this guy came in with the infamous cardboard box. We've all seen it in parking lots and so on and so forth. And this was walking into the convenience store that I was working at, night shift. And I looked into this box because he said they had been giving puppies away all day in Walmart, and there was one left. And I looked, and there was this brown puppy with these eyes that was cute and fluffy and adorable. And I'm like, if I bring it home, my mom's going to kill me. I can't bring. Well, 4 hours later, I told him to leave the puppy.
Yep.
And then Mom and I passed each other. She was on the way to work, and I was on the way home. And the manager couldn't keep her mouth shut because the manager knew it. She was a family friend. And I knew the moment when the manager had asked about the puppy because the phone rang at the house, and I said, "Hello." And the first thing that came out of my mouth was, "What dog?" And I explained to her what happened, and she said, "I want the dog gone before I come home." Well, fortunately for me, my dad got off work and got home before my mom did. So my mom came in, and she goes, "I want that." And my dad was holding the puppy and said, "How can you say no to this little face? Come on, Martha. Come on, let her stay. Isn't she cute? Look, she's absolutely adorable." And I'm in the living room going, "Yes, yes."
See, that wouldn't have worked on my mom.
It worked on her. She goes, I don't want anything to do with it.
And it wasn't that she hated dogs, because she didn't. She loved dogs just as much as the rest of us. But if she made her mind up that she just didn't want a dog right now, you weren't changing her mind. But yeah, that wouldn't have worked on my mom. I'm sorry. Very seldom would that have worked on anything, whether it was a dog, a puppy, or what have you. Mom centered mind. That was it.
Yeah. Now, the one thing was there was a mystery that developed with the puppy, because every week right about payday, I'd come home from work and there was a dog toy in the house. I knew I wasn't buying a dog toy. So second week in a row, I'm looking at my mom. I'm like, Mom, are you? She goes, I don't want anything to do with the dog. It's your dad that keeps buying the toys and the treats. I went, oh. She goes, yeah, talk to your father about that because I don't want anything to do with the dog. So she would have, the dog wasn't allowed to go in her room. The dog wasn't allowed to sit next to her or do anything. And my dad and my dog had come up with a ritual. Whenever my dad went downstairs to watch TV, my dad would get a coffee cup full of goldfish because they'd buy that extra big carton, that really huge, gigantic carton of goldfish.
Right.
Dad would fill the coffee cup up, go downstairs, and Lady, as she was named, would follow him down. He would eat one and he would flip her one and she would catch it and eat it. So they'd be watching TV, eating goldfish.
We had a lady. She was a Dalmatian that just showed up on our front porch one time and wouldn't leave. We figured somebody dumped her, and which I don't understand. She was a beautiful dog and very well behaved. Didn't much care for men, grown men. Kids were a different story, but grown men, she didn't much care for. But she just was a stray, showed up at our day. We didn't know what else to call her, so Mom called her Lady. Now, we only kept her for a short time because we already had a dog at the point. We wasn't ready for two dogs.
Yeah.
But we weren't going to turn her, out in the street. So until we found somebody to take her, then.
Yeah.
Bansma, I hope there's no dog in my truck because they're probably going to be a little too hot at the moment. Yeah. Although it has cooled off, we're starting. It was like mid 50s this morning when I left to go pick up the granddaughters, and it felt so good to me. Of course, the granddaughters are saying, "Papa, it's cold. I'm cold. I'm kind of." You guys are crazy. This feels great. Yeah.
Makes you wonder what some people are made of sometimes. 50 degrees is not cold, y'all.
No. Oh, Lord. I love it. That still shirt sleeve weather to me. I had a long sleeve shirt on, but it was very, very thin material and it was open, with a t-shirt underneath it. And that's only because that's what I sleep in. So,
yeah,
I just hadn't. When I pick them up in the morning, and it's now at the point in time that it's still dark out, sun doesn't come up till I'm on my way to get them. And, I get straight out of the bed. I give myself 15 minutes. I have to leave the house at 7 o'clock. I get up at 6:45, which is time enough to drink a cup of coffee and smoke a cigarette. And then I hit the road.
Yeah, Papa and I were discussing this before the show. I'd be perfectly happy if it was between 70 and 75 degrees all year round.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the fall. It's my absolute favorite season. It's not too hot and not too cold during the day. At night, it cools off enough to where it's great sleeping weather, and all that. The only problem I have with fall is that winter follows right on its tail. And I do hate the winter. Don't like winter. So if we could just go straight from fall to spring, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Can one of y'all see what you can do about that?
Right? Can we just kind of skip a whole season altogether? Because I'd be perfectly happy with that one. Perfectly happy with that one. I don't know how winter is going to be like here in Texas, but I remember in Georgia there were two kinds of cold. There was the cold that you could brace yourself for, and then there was the cold along with the humidity to where it didn't matter what you wore, it seeped through every layer of clothing you were wearing, and by the time you got home, you were freezing your behind off.
Yeah. Viper says, I love winter. Yeah, but Viper, here's what you're not considering. Winter's there in England and winters here in Midwest America are not the same thing. Trust me.
Yeah.
They are not the same thing.
Yeah.
So, I don't like winter. I can handle the cold. Hate the snow. Good God, I hate snow. My mom she loves snow. And she's, isn't it pretty? Isn't it pretty? No, Mom. This is what I see when I look out there and see all that snow. I see tow bills and dented fenders and getting yanked out of ditches. That's what I see.
Yeah. Yeah. My mom, for the longest time before my dad had to follow his job with Northwest up to Minnesota, she was like, she always bitched that it wasn't cold enough, that she liked the cold weather and all this stuff. So here they are now in Minnesota. First Christmas in Minnesota, I'm calling my mom because, I'm still living in Georgia. And I'm like, well, how's it going? She goes, it's cold up here. I said, you said you like the cold. She goes, let me be a little more specific. When you can take a half a cow and hang it outside your back porch and it flash freezes, it's too cold.
Yep. Thank you, Cryptic, for the donations. Stuff be cold here compared to the UK. Yeah, it's true enough. True enough. I think the worst I ever seen, it's been many years ago, back in the early to mid 90s. I don't remember exactly which year, but we had a record cold here in Indiana. And it got to 27 below actual temperature. That's not wind chill, folks. That's the actual temperature. 27 below. And it actually got down to 30 something below before it was done. But during the 27 below, I actually was outside working in it.
Ooh.
Yeah, at night. So there's not even any sun to warm me up. And it was so cold that my breath instantly froze on my mustache and beard, because I had a full beard at the time then too. It was so cold that the vinyl seats in my truck that I owned at the time froze. And when I jumped up in my truck to go, they shattered like glass.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cold. That was one of 2 times that I am aware of that FedEx shut down. The FedEx hub here in Indianapolis. They said, nope, we're not running tonight. It's too cold. It's dangerous.
Yeah.
But I was out. But they didn't decide to shut it down until I got to work.
Right.
And then at that time, I also had I delivered a morning paper.
Yeah.
I had a paper route. At that time, I actually had 3 jobs. So
yeah.
Whew.
Yeah, that was a blizzard of 93, John Connor. I remember that because I was working in the convenience store and I woke up down in Georgia with literally 2 inches of ice coating everything. Everything. And I remember looking at my dad and going, hey, Dad, you lived in New York for 14 years. How are you driving this? And he responded, you don't. That's ice, not snow.
Yep. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to winter. And we were also before the stream talking about how there's a difference between what happens when you get a few inches of snow here in Indiana, and when you get a few inches of snow in Georgia.
Need to be snow in Georgia. This has to be an inkling of an iota of a hint of snow, and everybody is like panicking for milk, bread.
Yeah, I mean, Atlanta will shut down if they get 2 inches of snow.
Yeah.
Here, we wake up and don't even pay attention to it. Oh, it snowed. Okay. Yeah. But having said that, that first snow of the season, it's like everybody forgets how to drive. That first snow of the season will be madness. And I am not looking forward to it because it's like everybody turns into a freaking idiot and forgets how to drive on the icy and snowy roads.
It was like Ronan being a truck driver when one of his bosses for one of the other companies he used to drive for, he goes, well, you're gonna need chains on your truck, in case those times you're gonna have to drive through the snow. And Ronan looked at him and goes, with all due respect, if I have to chain up, it's too dangerous to be making a delivery.
Yeah, I mean, here in Indiana, we get our share of snow. Yeah, we do. We get our share of snow. We do. Not too much last year. We were fortunate. Didn't get much last year, but it did get cold. We just didn't get a lot of snow.
Yeah.
But we're used to it enough that, a couple of inches, we're going to look at that and say, yeah, it's a dusting.
Yeah.
It didn't really snow until you top 5 inches.
Yeah.
Then, okay, well, now we're talking that it snowed.
Yeah.
2-3 inches, I'm not even going to shovel my walk.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it's like it's like I told you before the stream started. You know, people pick on the South for not being able to drive in the snow, and a lot of times it's the fact that people overlook that it will snow in the South. It'll get cold enough to snow in the South, and let's say it snows about 3 inches, and then it warms up just enough to melt that first inch, and then overnight it refreezes. So now you have a layer of ice under all that snow that people are trying to drive on top of. That's when the problems happen.
Yeah, that's the most dangerous situation over here is where it'll snow and they'll clear the roads. And of course, they treat the roads. You know, Midwest America, you have to. They'll salt the roads, or sometimes it's antifreeze that they put down on it, or what have you.
Yeah.
And you get that, and then that melts. But then during the night, you get a hard freeze. The temperature will drop dramatically, which happens.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not unusual for the temperature to drop 20, maybe even 30 degrees overnight, you know, during parts of the winter. And then it freezes, and then come rush hour morning traffic, you got a mess.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
That's what got me was the year, and I don't remember what year it was, but the year that Atlanta. Now, this is what got me. Atlanta, especially downtown Atlanta, has the CNN Center. What's in the CNN Center? The freaking Weather Channel. The Weather Channel had been warning them for weeks that a major winter storm was going to hit Atlanta and that everybody needed to be prepared. But the mayor kept all the schools open. So what did these stupid parents do? They put their kids on the bus, and now the kids are stranded at the school because the school's closed because the roads got too bad to get traveled on. And now I'm looking at all my friends on Facebook bitching about how the mayor didn't close the school. And I'm like, who's dumber, the mayor that didn't close the school or the parents that put their kids on the bus?
yeah. Well, that reminds me of way earlier in the stream, somebody was mentioning the blizzard of '78, which I, of course, remember very well because I was 18 in '78. So yeah, I didn't have to go to work for 3 days because I couldn't. We couldn't leave. But I remember when the blizzard hit, the governor actually come out and state of emergency and made it illegal to be on the roads.
Yeah.
You were not legally, and the stupid people that tried it anyway and got out there and got stuck. When it got to where the plows could come through, they plowed up cars and everything. I'm not joking. They didn't care if there was a car in the middle of the street. It got plowed up.
Yeah.
Right to the you go when during the thaw, there was all kinds of bashed up cars up and down the sides of the roads because they got out when they weren't supposed to and got stuck, and they said, well, screw you, we warned you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember my second husband. He thought since he was older than me that sometimes he would talk down to me and try and make me feel like I was an idiot, which was never the case. I wasn't the idiot; he was. But I digress. Knowing that I was going to start going on camping trips to sell my jewelry and other stuff, I bought $200 to $250 worth of camping gear. He told me I had wasted my money on the camping gear. Well, about a year, it wasn't even a year, woke up in the middle of winter in January, and there was snow and ice on the ground. We had no lights. So the first stupid question he asked was if I paid the electric bill. I just gave him a sideways glance and said, we've been through this before when the lights have gone off. I'm not going to answer that stupid question again. And then he looked at me and he goes, well, how are we going to get coffee? I said, you want coffee? He said, yeah. I said, it's percolating on the camp stove in the garage that the camp stove you said I wasted money on. In the camp coffee pot you said I wasted money on. On the camping table you said I wasted money on. He went, oh boy, I think this is going to be a running theme for the day. I went, yeah, because you said I wasted $250. And later on, I'm going to be using the wasted money camp stove to make breakfast. He went, oh, yeah, I'm not going to live this down.
Yeah, I remember when the blizzard of '78 started. When I had left, I'd walked about 2 blocks, 3 blocks to a friend's house, and it wasn't even snowing. And that was about 6 o'clock in the afternoon, in the evening. About midnight, 1 o'clock, I came home. It was over my knees.
Jeez.
It wasn't even snowing when I left the house a few hours earlier. It was over my knees.
Oh,
It was so bad. My dad worked nights at the post office at the airport, and he almost got stranded, but he did make it home, thankfully. But there were some guys at the work that decided, well, we can't do anything because we're snowed in. We're going to walk across the road here because there was a Holiday Inn just right across the road from that post office.
yeah.
We're just going to walk across the road here and go to the bar and drink. They found those guys almost froze to death at the fence of the interstate because they got turned around. They didn't even make it across the street. It was so blinding.
Wow.
And so they nearly froze to death to go get a drink.
Jeez.
They couldn't even walk it. But my car was seriously under an 8-foot drift. I didn't get my car back for several days.
Man.
And where I lived at the time, the city plows didn't come through there. So the neighbors, as soon as we could, as soon as weather permitted, we had to get out with hand shovels and dig our street out.
Yeah. Just like I was working for O'Charlie's at the time. They didn't close, so I had to go into work. And after about the fifth or sixth person that came in asking for the cheese soup, I walked into the kitchen. I'm looking at the manager, and he said, "Go ahead, say it. Just don't say it loud enough for them to hear it." I said, "Why would anybody risk their damn life to come here for nacho cheese soup with potatoes in it and a cup of coffee? You can make that shit at home." He started laughing. I'm like, "I'm sorry, but you can make it at home."
Yeah. John Connor says, I made bank that winter digging and pulling people out. People would pay even though we didn't charge. Yeah. Like I said, the neighbors had to get out and dig our block out by hand. And the day we were doing that, I get a call from work and they're wanting me to come in. I worked at a Ford dealership at that time as lot boy. And if you don't know what a lot boy is, it's just you pretty much do everything. Whatever they need done around the lot, that's what you do. Whether washing cars or taking out the trash or, whatever it is. And I got called in, and so did the mechanic I used for the used car lot. And the mechanic just happened to live 3 blocks from me. Well, he couldn't get to my house because we weren't dug out. So I walked down to the end of the block in snow up to my waist. I'm not joking. It was up to my waist. And they had plowed that street. So he picked me up at the end of the block. I went in, and the only reason they wanted us to come in was to yank all the cars out of the new cars out of the back lot so they were ready to sell. Now, nobody's going to come out in a blizzard and buy a car. But there was the owner of the car lot grinning like a silly fool. It was no sweat off of him because he's up in a big 4-wheel drive truck.
Oh.
Never got out of it. I'm out there, 18-year-old kid, having to hook the chain, dig underneath all these cars. I mean, literally dig through the snow. We're talking 36 inches of snow, people. Not drifts. That's how much fell, 36 inches. I'm digging under, tunneling under to hook these chains up to the bottom of these cars so he can yank them out of the snow like a grinning idiot to sell to people that aren't going to show up because it's a freaking blizzard. Oh, I was so mad, but I got paid for it. I was froze to death, but moron. But yeah. Banza says 36 inches, question mark. No, thanks. Yeah, I'm not joking. Look it up. It was 36 inches actual snowfall. That's not counting the drifts.
Yep.
That's why we had 8-foot drifts. And 36 inches, that's a yardstick, folks. I've been through more than a few blizzards. I can remember a bad one in 64. But 78 beats all I've ever seen before or since.
Yep. I remember early, I think it was 2008, maybe 2009. I have a friend that lives in Boston, and every once in a while you'd see him taking pictures of the snow with a ruler in it because he was measuring it. And that year, the snowfall where he was in Boston was 93 inches.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, we didn't need to break. This is a record I would have been happy for us not to break.
And yeah, thank you, John Connor, for putting that little exclamation point on it. That it was 36 inches in 8 hours.
Yeah.
This isn't snowfall over like 3 or 4 days. This fell in 8 hours.
Mm-hmm.
It's like at the beginning of the 8 hours, we had no snow on the ground. 8 hours later, 36 inches. It was a mess.
Yeah.
I remember driving near my high school after the blizzard, after things got cleared up, and and the city was back to moving again and everything. And there was piles of snow on each side of the road, 8, 9, 10 feet high, for the plows going through and plowing it to the side. And sticking out of those 8, 9 foot piles of snow would be every once in a while would be the front of a car or the back of a car because they got plowed up.
Oh.
There was actually a picture of it in my high school yearbook.
There was this one company Ronan drove for, and I rode with him at the time. It was called Western Express. For some reason, during the entire winter, they had us running in New England, in and out of Maine, running loads of water. Well, we had to park in this one Walmart parking lot. The Walmart closed at 11 o'clock at night. You heard me, a Walmart that closes, y'all. They do exist. And we parked behind a pile of snow because they had to, shovel out the parking lot so people would come in and park and all this stuff. So here we are in Maine, parked on the other side of this pile of snow. And it was so much and so tall, you couldn't see the 18-wheeler with the trailer attached.
Yeah.
And we were listening to the radio, and he goes, I wonder how hot it's going to be this day, because we were there for 34 hours for him to reset his driving clock. So we turned on the radio, and the lady said, the high today is going to be a balmy minus 10 degrees. Ronan, how the hell do people live up here? Somebody explain this to me.
Minus 10, that's common here during the winter. Yeah, that's come about mid-January to February. That'll be a common overnight temperature. Yeah.
The first morning we were there, it was either minus 15 or minus 20 with a high minus 10. But when we parked there the night before and had to use the bathroom, we didn't check the temperature. All I know is from the truck to the beginning of the Walmart, there were icicles coming off of his beard.
Yeah. And folks, for those of you that aren't American, that don't understand Fahrenheit, I don't know what that is Celsius, but that is 40 degrees below freezing. So just to give you a reference.
Yeah.
It's cold. It's what it is. It's cold. But when you live in a climate like this, you learn to deal with it. You learn how to get your car locks unlocked, it's and stuff like that. Heck, I've almost not been able to get in my house before because the doors froze shut, Okay.
Right.
Is there anybody in there that can push while I pull?
Right.
So I'm not looking forward to winter. Not looking forward to it at all. But it is 23 after the hour. We've got 7 minutes left to the stream. Questions. Not that you all haven't been interacting. And that's what I love about you guys. You do interact.
Oh yeah.
With me, and that says a lot. That says a lot.
I mean, well, without the chat, we'd just be talking to each other and screaming into the void collectively.
Which I would do. I mean,
yeah,
I would do. Apparently, people don't like when we talk about the weather, though, because it's we're down about 20 viewers of what we were a while ago. And Michael Weiner says, well, you pay attention to the chat. Well, I try to. It's easy to miss the chat sometimes if you've never live streamed before. on a stream that gets some interaction with chat, it is easy to miss because it's hard to pay attention to what you're saying and read the chat at the same time. At least for me, it is. I get confused. I can either read the chat or I can interact with my guests. Bands will say, "Hey, Pablo, who would you take, Scooby Doo or Richard Childress driving Dale Senior's last name?" Well, I would say Childress. I mean, as far as I know, Scooby Doo can't drive. I don't know. Yeah, it's a funny question. Viber says you're turning British talking about the weather. Oh no. The weather's always a big topic in Midwest America. In the winter, it's the cold and the snow. In the spring, it's the rain. In the late spring and summer, it's tornadoes. It's the weather's always a big topic here. Trust me. Sleepy Doodle, but the climate change is making everything too hot, isn't it? Yeah, right. As we spent far too long at the beginning of the stream on, nobody really knows what's going on.
Nope.
The climate. Virus said, "Can I move there?" But sure, come on. You can move. You just have to get used to the crazy weather. You know how. Viber, how are you with big swirling masses of wind that can drive a straw through a tree, a piece of straw through a tree? Because that's what a tornado is, and we do have them. We are dead smack in the middle of Tornado Alley, Indiana is. So yeah, if you're okay with that, which I am, you get used to it, just like people on the coast gets used to earthquakes. You know, you get used to it. But if you're okay with that, yeah, come on. Sleepy Doodle says, "Sorry, I missed the start of the stream." It's all good, dude. It's all good. Yeah. Better late than never.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I made fun of the weather this morning because there's 3 tropical storms off the southeast coast. There's Jerry, Karen, and Lorenzo. So I'm like, my running joke is Karen is chasing Jerry because she cheated on him with Lorenzo, the pool boy, and she forgot her Starbucks. So Lorenzo's chasing her to give her coffee.
Yeah. Banzo says, "Could you live in an Indy car?" Sweetheart, I'm not sure my fat butt could even get in an Indy car. I'm serious. There's just not a whole lot of room in them dudes. Your boy Pat says, "Anybody here like kung fu movies?" Oh, I used to love the old cheesy 70s kung fu movies. Yeah. Used to love those things. Bruce Lee for the win, dude.
Oh yeah.
John Connor, actually so far this year tornado's not been bad. No, you're right, John, we haven't. Very few, and had very few tornado watches, which for the uninitiated means that the conditions are right for a tornado, but one has not been spotted. Very, very few of that. The weather's been kind to us this season. Yeah. Let's see here. Is Bruce Lee Asian? Of course he's Asian. He was Chinese. Your boy Pat, the Shaw Brothers films are the best. The Demon Man 57, Enter the Dragon for the win. One of my favorite stories about Bruce Lee is that, and most of you know this by now, he played Kato on the old TV show, The Green Hornet. That's how he got to be known. And he was so fast and his hands moved so fast that he had to slow it down for the TV cameras because the TV cameras at the day could not capture it.
Nope.
He was too fast and it was just a blur. So he had to physically make a conscious effort to slow down so the TV cameras could see what he was doing.
Yes, I think it's the same thing with Wesley Snipes when they were taping oh shit. Oh, I can't call myself a geek if I can't remember the Blade movies. Because he was trained the same way in martial arts, and they even with the cameras and technology of the time that they were filming the Blade movies, he had to slow down his actions for the camera to keep up.
Yeah. But at the time Bruce Lee hit the public consciousness, he was a phenom. Nobody had ever seen anything like him. And I think single-handedly, he probably brought about the Kung Fu movie craze of the 70s. Just single-handedly. I mean, there were other people and other stars, of course, but I don't think anybody done more to promote them than he did. Alex has, I have the worst gas today. Thank you for sharing.
Right?
Poor vanilla, and I hope you have plenty of air cleaner on hand.
No kidding.
And we are at that time where, you know, there's not much of a format to this live stream, as you can tell. We just talk about whatever comes to mind, and that's the way I want it. And that's the way I like it. We've come to the end of the stream. There is one format. I do like to end it at 2 hours because that's about all I can do before I'm super tired. And I really believe that anything more than 2 hours starts to bore people.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for all of you for coming out and supporting the stream with your likes, your shares, your presence, your comments, your chats, and for those that went a little further and your donations. I do appreciate it. Absolutely. Thank you, Maddie. I kind of gave you a little bit of short notice today, so thank you for filling in.
All right, no problem. If you want me on Thursday, because Ronan's going to be on the road for the next 7 days or so he's not going to be home this week. Just let me know.
Okay. Anything you want to shout out?
Oh, that's the news portion that just got uploaded today. I put it in the live chat now. It is mostly UK stuff. There was a lot of UK stuff this morning that's going to go up tomorrow, so I'm trying to keep an eye on the mess that's going on over there as well as other parts of the world. I am working on the Iran, Saudi Arabia, US thing. So far, I have found 17 sources I got to sort through for a dedicated video. Yay. That's about it, guys.
All right. And as for me, be sure to tune in for the next episode of Redneck Radio, which will be Thursday at 2:30 Eastern Daylight Time. Somebody corrected me on that the other day because I was saying EST, but okay, Eastern Daylight Time. Okay, EDT. You know what I meant. Anyway, be sure to tune in for that. We'll be back then. And also, as far as I'm aware, and every intent is, stay tuned Sunday at 5:30 Eastern for the next episode of Redneck Trek. So we will see you then. But until then, get out of my yard.